Peace be upon you all and welcome to the channel. I realized that I forgot a certain part in the previous lecture regarding verb conjugation and different verbs. So I edited that portion out of the video and I decided to make a separate video to cover what I wish to cover fully in that lecture. Before we start, firstly I would like to say that the part that I forgot to mention in the previous video, and that is why I had to make this new video, I wanted to give the audience verb examples so that they can practice conjugation at home. But also there was the part that I covered in the video about imperatives and when do the imperative form of the verbs use connecting hamzas and when do they not use that. So I will start with that part first and then move towards the different verb examples. So for imperatives, we have a few criteria that would determine whether the verb starts with a connecting hamza or would start with another letter altogether. If you recall from the previous video, before we start conjugation, we revert the verb to its root, which normally tends to be the past tense for the pronoun he, or the conjugation for the past tense pertaining to the pronoun he. However, there are some cases where the root of the word is the noun, not the past tense conjugation. And as I said, that comes with practice, how you would be able to identify the root of the word. So for convenience here, we will say, instead of saying past tense, we will say the root of the word. If the root of the word is comprised of 5 or 6 letters, then the imperative form of the verb for that root starts with a connecting hamza. And we will cover examples in a bit when we take the different verbs. But if you have a root that is 5 or 6 letters long, you can be safe to assume that it will start with a connecting hamza. If the root of the word is only 3 letters, and the roots normally do not reach below 3 letters. It will always be 3 and above. There are certain words in Arabic that have 2 letters. However, those are, they could be prepositions or conjugations, conjunctions, sorry. They will not be roots of verbs. This is also connecting hamza. Connecting hamza, there we go. If the root of the word is 4 letters, then the imperative form of that word will start with a cutting hamza. Cutting hamza. However, if the root of the word is 3 letters, but as part of the root, it is not an additional letter, as part of the root, if the word has a connecting, cutting hamza, so if it is part of the main root of the word, not an additional letter, as for example in conjugation, if it is part of the main root, the verb starts with the second letter, or the imperative form, I should say, starts with the second letter after the hamza. So that means that in the imperative form, the cutting hamza is removed from the root, and you start with the second letter immediately after the cutting hamza. This is this chart, or this branch, determines how the imperative form is formed for different verbs. However, it still does not help with the diacritics for the individual letters within the word. This will also come with practice, as Arabic has a multitude of words and verbs. It will be rather difficult to cover all of them in a beginner level course, or even an intermediate level course. If I am destined to make an intermediate level course and an advanced level course, that would be where the verbs, the majority of the verbs would be in an intermediate or even an advanced level course. However, I do not feel that I am qualified enough to teach Arabic at an intermediate or advanced level. I feel that I am comfortable with the beginner level. So that is with regards to the imperatives. This rule will help you identify when a verb should start with a connecting hamza, or with a cutting hamza, or without either hamzas. Now let us cover some verb examples so that you can practice conjugation. We covered the prefixes and suffixes in the conjugation chart from the previous lecture. However, we did not cover how each letter within the verb would have a diacritic, because the diacritics change from tense to tense and from conjugation to conjugation. As I said, that will come with practice. As you read more and identify the verbs, you will be able to store the information with regards to, okay, so these verbs follow a certain diacritical rule, certain other verbs follow a different diacritical rule, and so on and so forth. So we will take a very common verb, the verb, how would I say it? To say. The root of, so if you are interested, the noun is qawl. That is the noun. qawl. Qawl. That is the noun. I'll put an N to indicate that it is a noun. The root verb form of it is, and remember, we reverted to the past tense and used the conjugation for he or huwa. This would be qala. Qala. You will notice that all the verbs in past tenses end with a fatha. This is a grammatical rule. I cannot fully translate it in English because it would be nonsensical. However, you can say that past tenses always end with a fatha. Always. They will end with a letter that has a fatha on it. قال, تكلم, فعل, أكل. They always end with a fatha. So we will say this is the verb. That is a very strange and distorted V. Again. Okay, I think I need to change my graphics tablet. Now, I would like for you, and you can consider this an exercise, if you would like to use fiduciaries to be able to identify the past, present, and imperative forms of the verb, go right ahead. However, you have the conjugation charts, so you know how to add the prefixes and suffixes with respect to the pronouns used. So use this for the past tense form. However, in the present tense, the root changes. Instead of having this root for the present tense, you actually have this root for the present tense with the respective differences in diacritics, of course. So you will use this root for the present tense. The imperative, the future tense, as we covered earlier, would be the same as, or in the previous video, I mean, would be the same as the past tense, present tense, apologies, but with the addition of shall or will. For the imperative, however, the imperative is only 2 letters. So as you can see, it is completely different. So even though I gave you that standard rule in the branch earlier, there will always be exceptions to the rules. And that is because the Arabic language is incredibly rich. So do not expect the rules to be satisfied fully for every verb. This will be the imperative. قل, which means say. And the best, I guess you could say, if you would like to practice this word quite a lot, read the last 3 chapters in the Quran, chapter the people or An-Nas, chapter Al-Falaq. I do not remember the translation for that because there are differences in the translation. The Falaq, some people say, is a valley in hell. So I do not really remember the actual name for it in English. But if you go to Quran.com, I'll also leave the link in the description below. The last 3 surahs or chapters: An-Nas, the people; Al-Falaq, and Al-Ikhlas, which means sincerity. Though it does not mean sincerity in speech, it means the sincerity, or actually in that context it could mean the clarity in faith or belief, because it speaks about God and how God defines himself. So if you read that particular chapter, that uses قل frequently, if you would like to practice more with that verb. So I would say you have the roots here for the different tenses. Now your exercise would be to add the prefixes and the suffixes depending on the pronouns. Do not worry about the diacritics. That will come with practice and reading a lot. But if you are able to identify the root and the prefixes and the suffixes, then you would be able to tell yourself, oh, so that is the verb. That is how the diacritics are written, and so on and so forth. And if you notice that here there is a waw med or a waw vowel, but in the past tense it was converted to alif med or alif vowel. That should also help when you see in the present tense there is a waw med. You will know that in the past tense most likely it will be an alif instead of a waw. Another verb we could cover would be to drink. Now, with regards to the root, whether it is the noun or the past tense form, they are spelt exactly the same. Of course, they differ in diacritics. So this is was too slanted. This is the noun, and this is the diacritic shurb. So you can add an alif lam to it because it is a noun. That is shurb. So that would be noun. The past tense, however, for he is shariba. Shariba. be. That is the past tense and it is a verb. The best part about this verb is that you can use this or this for the present tense as well. So I'll just delete this instead and draw an arrow here, or draw an arrow from here. And this is the noun. So you can use, as you can see, they are exactly the same in terms of spelling, only the diacritics differ. So you will use these three letters for both the past tense and the present tense. Now for the imperative, remember the branch rule that we spoke of earlier with regards to imperatives. The root is 3 letters, which means that the imperative will start with a connecting hamza. And normally with a connecting hamza you pronounce it as a cutting hamza with a kasra beneath it. So it is E. Normally there are certain instances where it is not pronounced with an E. So this will also be a verb. And this will be the imperative. And the diacritic would be ish rab. Ishrab. This is of course for singular, not plural form. And so with the plural form, whether it is duality or multiple nouns, you will have to add either alif nun to indicate duality, or waw, and I'll leave you to identify what you will add for suffixes and prefixes based on the conjugation chart that we covered. Another verb that we will cover, we are covering very basic, very popular verbs. You will find these verbs in almost any literal works or rhetorical works, and also in the Quran you will find them quite often. Here we will say to eat. Now the noun is akl, the same as shurb. How so? The first letter is moving, which means it has a diacritic. The second 2 letters are still because they have a sukoon, the same as here, haraka, sukoon, and that is the noun. And also it is the root or the past tense form, spelt exactly the same, but it ends with a fatha, akala. That is the verb. And as before, these work for either the present tense, but this form in this form in particular is past tense, and this form or this spelling works for present tense as well, but you will have to change the diacritics. We actually covered the spelling for the present tense for akl in the previous lecture, so you can infer and deduce from that. Now we have a word whose root is 3 letters and starts with a cutting hamza. Remember the rule that we discussed with imperatives, it will be applied here as well. This was an exception. So we will remove the cutting hamza and start the imperative with the second letter immediately following the cutting hamza. So the imperative here will be kul. Kul. And this is an imperative. Now, actually, I think I will start the next list in a separate page. So we have the verb here is to struggle. However, it has multiple meanings depending on the context of struggle. It could mean putting in the effort to succeed, that is a struggle, or fighting someone, that is also considered a struggle. The word or the noun is jihad. And the reason I am covering this word in particular is because of the defamation attributed to Islam and how it is a violent religion, even though if you read the other holy books, you can clearly identify which religion is the violent one. But that is a story for another time. The word jihad is derived from another root called juhd. And juhd means effort. So if you are struggling, you are putting in the effort. However, the struggle differs. So jihad also differs in definition. Whether you are fighting with someone or you are struggling to become a better person, you can use the word jihad as well. And this is how it is spelled, or rather with the diacritics, jihad. And this is the noun. Now, since I'll cover this briefly, this is considered Islamic, Islamic teachings, or part of an Islamic lecture, but I will cover it because I am a Muslim first before I am a teacher. There are 5 types of jihad. 2, 3, 4, 5. The first type is the struggle of the self. And that is the struggle for someone to become a better person, a better self. So this is called jihad of the self, or in Arabic, jihad an-nafs. Are you trying to become a better person? Are you avoiding what is harmful to others or to the self itself? Are you trying to engage in what is beneficial to society and beneficial to the self? That struggle, that conflict, is known as jihad. No violence there. The second one is fiscal. You could also call it financial, monetary, however you wish. In Arabic, it is called jihad al-mal, or fiscal jihad of the money or of the fortune. This is related to charities. Do you feel that you are a cheap person, or do you feel that you are a charitable person? And if you are a charitable person, do you feel you are donating to the right causes, or are you spending your money frivolously or on trivial matters and you consider it charitable? And if you are a cheap person, you are struggling, you are jihading, if you wish to call it that, yourself to be more charitable. That is another form of jihad. The third one is the devil, or jihad al-shaytan. This is similar to this, but with jihad of the self, it is for the benefit. Here, or rather struggling to become better, this jihad is struggling to avoid the harmful. Here you are forcing yourself to do what is right in terms of acts of worship. So for example, as Muslims, we have to awaken before dawn to pray. This could be considered jihad of the self. Will you awaken, or will you continue to slumber? This, on the other hand, is attributed or ascribed to sins. Will I, as a person, fornicate? Will I drink alcohol, which is forbidden in Islam, and so on and so forth? This is called the struggle of the devil, or jihad ash-shaytan. Will you be able to control yourself, or will you succumb? And in Islam, the beauty of Islam is that even if you do succumb to sin, you can easily repent without an intermediary. No priests, no archbishops, no rabbis that require you to confess and then they talk or communicate with God on the sinner's behalf. The sinner can immediately repent by satisfying certain criteria, and the sin is forgiven, and you are considered to have paid penance. And there is also no inheritance of the sin. The sins of the father is not applicable in Islam at all. Each person is judged by their own actions, not the actions of their ancestors. Then we have, let us see, jihad al-nafs, jihad al-mal, jihad al-shaytan, jihad al-kalima, the word. This involves speaking the word of truth when wickedness reigns, or when tyranny reigns, or when dictatorship reigns. Will you say the word of truth, or will you be silent as others would be? This does not have to be political. You could be in an online community and see the founder of the community or the people of the community speaking ill of someone or speaking profanities. You as a person have a choice. Would you draw the line and stop them by saying the word of truth, even though chances of you being banned from that group are high? Or would you be silent and let the tyranny or the wickedness reign? This is a jihad, because most people struggle to speak the word of truth out of fear. However, in online communities, it is the fear of loneliness, and so they are willing to remain silent and let profanity and wickedness reign, simply to avoid being ostracized and being alone. But that is a tale for another time, the truth behind the online realm and online communities. Lastly, again, no violence there. If you speak the truth when you see that someone is harming another and you tell them what you did is wrong, that is called jihad al-kalima. Lastly is jihad bin nafs, or by the self. This is the combative part of jihad. It is the same as when governmental militaries declare war on other countries, such as the US invading Iraq, for example, or invading Afghanistan. They are fighting, they are sacrificing themselves for their cause, even though their cause is unjust and false from beginning to end. But they are struggling with themselves. They are sacrificing themselves. We as Muslims have the same too. It is rather unfair for people to see their countries such as France or Germany or Italy or America or Britain declare war on other countries, invade them, pollute them, rob them, and burn them. And when we fight our wars, suddenly Islam is labeled as a religion of violence. We fight wars the same as other countries fight wars, but not the same manner. We have certain principles that we abide by in war, such as the fact that we do not burn trees. We are forbidden from burning trees in war, killing women, killing children, killing animals, destroying buildings, even religious buildings. We are forbidden from touching those in war. We only fight the combatants on the battlefield that are fighting us. So these are the 5 types of jihad. I apologize for digressing, but I wanted to clarify the meaning behind the word, because there are ignorant people who spread their ignorance, and there are ignorant masses that listen without actually putting in the effort to research the information. And as I said, I am a Muslim first before I am a teacher. So I'll simply erase all of this. I'll leave this here for reference. So for the past tense, this would be the root. جاهد. جاهد. And as we said, if there is no diacritic atop a letter that is potentially a vowel, it is automatically a vowel. Or you can put a sukun, but most if not all authors leave the vowel as an empty letter without any diacritics. So this would be the past tense. And I will say verb. For the present tense, it is the exact same spelling, however, difference in diacritics as usual. So I will write this, actually, I will say this, past tense, and present tense, but with the differences in diacritics, of course, present tense. Now for the imperative, the rules that we discussed previously do not apply here as well. This is another exception. The imperative here is exactly the same as the past tense form, with the exception of a difference in diacritics, but it is spelled exactly the same. Jahid. This is for the singular, of course. But the purpose of this exercise is not to test your knowledge of the diacritics. It is simply to assert the knowledge that we discussed in the previous lecture with regards to the prefixes and the suffixes. Hence why I am identifying the differences and the exceptions in the spelling. Now for, also before I forget, remember with akala, he ate, remember what we did for the present tense with regards to ana or I eat. There is a certain hamza that we will use only for ana. And since I discussed it in the previous lecture, I will not ruin the surprise in this lecture. Okay. Second verb we will cover is to talk. Now, the noun is completely different. I mean, these are different too, but as you can see, they're different in arrangement, but they still have the same words. However, for to talk, the verb talk, the noun is obviously different compared to, or clearly different compared to the verb. To talk is the noun, sorry, or the talk is kalam. Kalam. So you can say al kalam. And I revealed another letter that is attached to the lunar lam or lam al-qamariyya that we discussed in the articles. Now for the past tense, for with regards to the talk verb, huwa kallama. Verb. Or it could also be takallama. Actually, let me add this in red. I honestly do not know the differences between what if the prefix with a ta was added or without the ta. I would say for emphasis. Actually, this needs a haraka in addition to the shadda. تكلم. It could be an emphasis on what the subject spoke of, perhaps, but you could say huwa kallama or أو is or in Arabic, or you could say huwa takallama. I believe the difference is in the accusative. So I would say huwa kallama الرجل. He talked to the man. الرجل. And remember, rajul does not mean male, it means man. Every man is male, but not every male is a man. The word man is a description for various attributes that are sadly absent in males in this day and age. So without the prefix, you will connect it directly. However, with the prefix, huwa takallama, you would say ma'a, with, and we will cover prepositions and conjunctions in a separate video. مع الرجل. Actually, I just realized the difference. So مع الرجل, if you are adding this is a conversation. If you are not going to add this and you'll say هو كلم الرجل without مع, that means he is speaking to or talking to the person. So it could mean that he is speaking informatively to the person as opposed to communicating or conversing with an individual. I actually learned a new rule here. I am glad. So this would be the past tense. However, the prefix here is only for huwa, he. Ignore this with the other pronouns. Actually, now that I am thinking about it, أنا تكلمت. Yeah, you can add this with أنا as well. But the preposition will differ, whether it is present or absent. Now I am regretting mentioning this verb because it would be a bit complex with that prefix. You can ignore the prefix for now and simply say كلم without the prefix. However, you can use the prefix if you would like, but you'll have to use it with the preposition with. For the imperative, and I will write imperative here. And it would be كلم. كلم. Again, even though the root is 3 letters, it does not start with a connecting hamza. If you feel confused about this verb, feel free to ignore it. I should have thought of this before actually writing it. But like I said, I learned from this part right here, and that is the purpose of these videos, is for everyone, at least everyone who is watching this learns. And what is best about being incorrect is that you learn what is correct. So we will end this lecture with our last verb here. Okay, so let us see. What verb should we take? Okay, let us say to fight. Now, in Arabic, there is a difference between to fight and to kill in Arabic. I know it is obvious because in English there is a difference. However, ignorant people, when they read the Quran, they mistake fighting for killing. Whether it is out of pure ignorance and uneducation or intentionally spread such ignorance to defame Islam, it could be either or. However, if someone does not know the truth, the responsibility befalls the individual to seek the truth instead of hearing it from propaganda. In Arabic, fighting, to fight, is, and this is the noun, قتال. قتال. And this is a sukun. Let me see if I can draw a circle. There we go. قتال, and this is a ta. Let me darken these dots. This is a noun. It looks similar to killing, which is قتل. قتل is the noun for the verb to kill. The difference is قتل, I kill with the intention to kill. That is the word قتل. قتال means I will fight for a certain purpose. If I end up killing someone during that fight, but once the purpose has been achieved, I stop, that is called قتال. So there is a difference between قتال and قتل. Again, when people see this word in the Quran, they assume that Islam spread by the sword, which is rather hilarious because there is no such thing as the Islamic Inquisition. However, certain countries that claim to be Christian had Inquisition, so I wonder which religion actually spread by the sword. Islam mostly spread through trades, if you read the history. But there were wars, yes, and there were battles, and there was fighting, which ceased once the purpose was achieved. So that is called qital. And normally the leader of the Islamic army would provide the leader of the enemy with three choices. Either to accept Islam and there will be no battles, or remain on the religion that you and your people decide upon, and you only have to pay the Islamic tax, which is different for Muslims. Muslims pay a higher Islamic taxes than non-Muslims, and even if the non-Muslims cannot afford it, they are exempted from it, as opposed to the laws of capitalism. The third choice is, if you will not accept the first two choices, we will fight you until you choose one of the two choices. You either surrender, remain on the religion you want, but the land will be run by Islamic law, which means basically pay the Islamic tax. But however, the churches or the synagogues or whatever religion the country has will not be touched. So if people wish to remain in Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism or whatever, they can practice it freely without any prejudices whatsoever. They are even free to have their own courts instead of using the Islamic court. So that is qital. We have a purpose, which is to spread the word of God. We want to spread it peacefully. If a country or if a nation or if a group of individuals will stop us from doing so, we will have to fight to finish or fulfill our purpose, which is to spread the word of God. That is our purpose. We wish to do it peacefully. We only have to fight when we are forced to fight. For the past tense, the form is قاتل. قاتل. That is the past tense. The same spelling is also used for the present tense. However, it differs in the diacritic. And as I said, you are free to choose fiduciary aids to help you with spelling the word with the different diacritics. For the imperative, it is spelled the same as the past and present tense, with the differences in the diacritics, of course. This is a verb. I'll say this is the imperative. قاتل. قاتل. And of course, as we said, it is different from قتل, which is to kill for the sake of killing or with the intention to kill. And we will end the lecture for today. You are free to search other verbs if you would like to learn more and try to conjugate them. You can use whichever verbs you would like. The conjugation chart will not change. The diacritics and sometimes the spelling will change, but the prefixes and the suffixes will remain the same. So this is an exercise for the prefixes and suffixes with regards to conjugation instead of the verb spelling itself. I hope this video was of benefit to everyone and it was helpful and simple and clear. I truly hope so. And I will see you all in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your day.